This is what happens when the worst team in basketball becomes the best team in the Eastern Conference in 2 years. The Detroit Pistons sit at 38-13 in first place with the second-best record in the entire NBA, and they're proving that everything the league has believed about building a contender for the past decade might be wrong. As of February 10, 2026, Detroit's defensive rating stands at 109.3, good for second in the league, while their plus 7.8 net rating also ranks second in the NBA. A 13-game winning streak that just ended tied their franchise record, and the part that's making the other 29 teams nervous is simple. They built this without tanking. The numbers tell you everything you need to know about where Detroit stands today. 38-13, first place in the Eastern Conference. The latest they've led the East this deep into a season since 2005, and they trail only the Oklahoma City Thunder for the best record in basketball. Defense drives everything they do, with that 109.3 defensive rating sitting second in the league and controlling games through a plus 7.8 net rating that puts them right behind Oklahoma City. Between October 29th and November 24th of 2025, they rattled off 13 straight wins to tie a franchise record last set back in 2008. On November 22nd during that run, Milwaukee came to town and left with a 129-116 loss after Cade Cunningham dropped 29 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, and dished 10 assists. Detroit was 14-2 at that point, and nobody was calling it a fluke anymore. The city knows what they're watching. Attendance sits second in the entire NBA at 547,736 fans through early February, a jump from 9th place last season. People are showing up because this team respects them enough to actually try winning instead of asking for patience through another rebuild. And here's what should scare everyone else. Only 691 days separate this team's 12-game losing streak from their 12-game winning streak. That's the second fastest turnaround between those two extremes in NBA history, trailing only what the Boston Celtics did between 2006 to 2007 and 2007 to 2008. Cade Cunningham isn't playing like a developing young star anymore. He's playing like a top 5 guy in the league right now. 25.3 points per game and 9.6 assists, which leads the entire NBA. Through 46 games this season, he's cracked 30 points 11 different times. And on January 19, 2026, the league named him an all-star starter for the first time after making the team as a reserve last year. His fourth best MVP odds at plus 5,000 trail only Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Luka Doncic, which means a 24-year-old is actually in the conversation alongside the best players on the planet. When reporters asked him about the team's goals this season, Cunningham didn't hide behind safe answers or talk about development. "We're trying to get to the finals and win the finals," he said. "Last year, play-in, all that stuff was more the goal." Now that's not even what we're talking about. It's just how we can be the highest level basketball team we can be. That's present tense, not building towards something, not waiting for the future. They're already there. What makes Detroit's position even more threatening is how young their core players are and how much room they still have to grow. Jalen Duren just turned 21. Jaden Ivey is 23 and healthy after a broken left fibula ended his season early last year, and before that injury he was posting career highs of 17.6 points per game while shooting 40.9% from 3 across 30 games. Isaiah Stewart is 23, Ausar Thompson is 22, and none of them have hit their primes yet. This roster didn't sacrifice its future to win now, and that's the part other contenders have to worry about. While aging cores around the league count down their championship windows and expensive contracts pile up, Detroit is watching their best players enter the years where stars get made. Duren said it plainly, "The biggest thing is we're still hungry. Not everybody here went through the 28-game losing streak with us, but the guys who were here truly understand and still feel like we've got a lot to prove." 691 days ago, they went 14-68. Today, they're first in the Eastern Conference with a core that won't peak for another 3 or 4 years. Every other NBA front office is uncomfortable right now because Detroit ignored the blueprint everyone else follows. The modern NBA runs on one strategy: tank for multiple years, stack lottery picks, trade those picks and young players for established superstars, and suffer through 4 or 5 years of losing before you can compete. Boston went from 24 wins to 66 wins in 2007 to 2008, but they did it by trading for Kevin Garnett. Philadelphia trusted the process through years of intentional losing. That's how you're supposed to build. Detroit went from 14 wins to first place in the Eastern Conference in 2 years without trading for a single superstar. They hired J.B. Bickerstaff as head coach on July 3, 2024, brought in Trajan Langdon as president of basketball operations on May 31, 2024, signed smart veterans to short-term deals, and developed the players they already had. No tanking for multiple years, no blockbuster trades, no suffering required. Their net rating jumped from -9.0 in 2023 to 24 to +7.8 right now, a 16.8-point swing accomplished in less than 2 full seasons. The second-best defense in the NBA came from coaching and culture, not from signing defensive all-stars in free agency or tanking for the perfect prospect. Last season's 44-38 finish marked a 30-game improvement, the 6th largest season-to-season turnaround in NBA history, and made them the only team ever to go from fewer than 15 wins to making the playoffs the next year. But that was just year 1. This season, they're 38-13 with a legitimate shot at the #1 seed, which means they're not a nice story about getting better, they're a threat. The thing that terrifies the NBA is simple. If Detroit wins a championship in the next couple of years, it proves that a decade of accepted front office wisdom was wrong. Look around the league right now. Franchises have spent 5, 6, 7 years tanking while collecting lottery picks and telling their fans to be patient. Other teams traded everything they had for 1 or 2 stars, and now they're capped out with aging rosters counting down their final chances. You either suffer through years of losing or you mortgage the future. Those are supposed to be the only options. Detroit sits in first place doing neither. They signed Cade Cunningham to a 5-year, $224 million extension on July 10, 2024, and watched him become an MVP candidate without surrounding him through years of strategic losing. Veterans like Tobias Harris came in to play actual minutes and mentor the young guys, not just collect checks. Bickerstaff was available because Cleveland fired him despite back-to-back 50-win seasons, and Detroit grabbed him while other teams chased bigger names. Every move looked boring at the time. Nobody writes headlines about smart veteran signings or promoting culture over star power. And now they're dominating the Eastern Conference while teams that have been processing for half a decade are still picking in the lottery. Tom Gores, the team's owner, said after last year's playoff run, "How the team has been able to get through adversity is so impressive. I don't get inspired by a lot. I'm really inspired by them. They have excited the city." That excitement is real, and those attendance numbers prove it. Second in the NBA, because Detroit is watching a team that actually tries to win instead of asking for blind faith in a 5-year plan. Front offices around the league are watching what happens when you choose development over assets. A 24-year-old leads the NBA in assists. A 21-year-old anchors the second-best defense in basketball. The supporting cast fits perfectly around them, and the whole operation sits in first place in the Eastern Conference just 2 years removed from 14 wins. Teams built through blockbuster trades and max contract free agents are watching a team built through smart hiring and player development beat them straight up. Detroit's success right now isn't just about their wins and losses. It's about what those wins prove is possible. You don't need half a decade of suffering. You don't need to trade 7 first-round picks for 1 player. You don't need to tank until the perfect draft class falls into your lap and hope you get lucky. What you need is the right coach who knows how to develop players, the right front office making unsexy decisions that actually work, young players who buy into improvement instead of just waiting for their next contract, and veterans who can still play meaningful minutes. Detroit has all of that, and the results speak for themselves. Net rating from -9.0 to +7.8 in Bickerstaff's first 2 seasons, first place in the East in Langdon's second year running the organization, and Cunningham signing his extension before immediately becoming an all-star starter and MVP candidate. That's the model every struggling franchise wants, but assumes they can't achieve. Detroit is proving otherwise. Right now, today, the Detroit Pistons are legitimate championship contenders, not future threats or up-and-coming teams to watch. 38-13, second-best record in the NBA, second-best defense, a top-5 MVP candidate, a young core getting better every month, a 13-game winning streak this season that showed they can dominate anyone in the league when they're locked in. Cunningham laid out the goal without any subtlety. We're trying to get to the finals and win the finals. Not in 3 years when the young guys develop, not when they make the right trades. Now. The NBA spent a decade convincing itself that suffering was the only path to contention. That losing 60 games per season for years was just the cost of building a winner? That patient development was what teams settled for when they couldn't attract stars. Detroit went 14-68 in 2023 to 2024, they're 38-13 in 2025 to 2026. They're first in the Eastern Conference with a 24-year-old leading the league in assists. Their defense ranks second in the NBA. Their attendance sits second in the league, and they did it all in 691 days. This isn't about the past or some inspirational comeback story. This is about what's happening right now on February 10th, 2026. The Detroit Pistons are dominating the Eastern Conference with a blueprint that makes every tanking team look like they've been doing it wrong the entire time. Smart leadership, player development, and culture turned around a franchise in 2 years instead of 6. You can compete for championships without suffering through half a decade of lottery picks. Unsexy decisions beat blockbuster trades when the unsexy decisions are actually smart. And that's exactly what the NBA feared. A team showing there's a better way, and they're already in first place proving it works.